Hi, today we are going to talk about an atrial septum defect, specifically a patent foramen ovale. So, in order to understand this defect, it's important to know how our heart works under normal circumstances. So, we are going to go ahead and cover that first. So, our heart seen here is generally the size of a closed fist, and it is composed of four compartments. We have our left atrium and left ventricle, and our right atrium and our right ventricle. The left and right side of our heart are separated by a septum, which is just a fibromuscular wall. This is important because it prevents blood from flowing from the left and right side and mixing that oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood. So our atriums receive blood from our venous system, and our ventricles will pump blood out to our arterial system. So let's go ahead and go through that process now. So our right atrium here is going to receive oxygen-poor blood, and this gets blood from our organ systems. And then our left atrium seen here receives oxygen-rich blood, which is coming from our lungs. And what happens is once the blood enters our atriums, our atrioventricular valves are going to open, and that blood is going to flow into our ventricles. At the same time, though, our pulmonary trunk and our aorta valves are closing, so that way no blood is flowing from them back into our ventricles. So once the blood is in our ventricles, our atrioventricular valves are going to close. This is going to cause an increase of pressure in our ventricles. And once this pressure reaches a point that is higher than that of our pulmonary trunk and aorta, the pulmonary trunk and aorta valves will open and the ventricles will contract, and that blood is going to then exit the heart through their respective system and go out. So for example, the oxygen-rich blood in our left ventricle is going to exit through our aorta and go to our organ systems. And then our oxygen-poor blood that is in our right ventricle is going to exit through the pulmonary trunk and go to our lungs to become oxygenated, and then these systems are going to return the blood back to the atriums, where they then go through this process over and over again. So, what happens when there's an issue in this? So, for example, our heart has a defect in our foramen ovale. So our foramen ovale is a hole that is between our atriums, and after birth, it should close. When it doesn't, it is called a patent foramen ovale. Patent just means open. So you can see here that the foramen ovale is open in this heart. So this heart has a defect. What does that cause? So what can happen is blood will pool on the right side of our heart because pressure on the left side is higher, and this can result in pulmonary hypertension and edema, which is just fluid buildup in our lungs. Also, this can cause a stroke. Why? Because blood clots can travel through our circulatory system up to our brain and resulting in us having a stroke. What are symptoms to know if you might have this is migraines or shortness of breath with mild activity. Now, generally, this defect actually goes unnoticed because there's not very many symptoms for it and it's hard to detect. People normally only find out that they have this defect when they're actually searching for other issues that they've noticed. So now that we know the symptoms and what it causes, how can we treat it? So there are two options I would like to mention, and that is either medications that can help your blood not clot, that way you're not having blood clots go up to your brain and causing strokes, or the other alternative is when it's very severe is surgery, and what happens is a catheter is entered through a vein in your leg and enters up into your heart, and it will place a disc over that foramen ovale to close it. So those are some symptoms that you can keep an eye out for to see if maybe you potentially have a patent foramen ovale.